The book is outstanding.
Having faced poverty and racism throughout his entire life, David Goggins has transformed himself. He's a former US Navy SEAL who's completed over 60 triathlons and ultramarathons. In his book Can't Hurt Me, he discusses the techniques that he used to master his mind and transform his life. Let's go through these in detail so you too can reach your potential. David recounts his experience of running the Hurt 100. This is a 100-mile ultramarathon based in the mountains of Hawaii. Even as a novice runner at the time, in spite of the excruciating pain he faced, he was able to complete the race. And one of the reasons why he was able to complete the race was by using what he describes as the 40% rule. The 40% rule helped David stretch his pain tolerance. He highlights how most of us give up when we've only put in about 40% of our maximum effort, when we feel like we've reached our absolute limit. He mentions how we actually have 60% more in the tank to give. The 40% rule can be applied to any situation we feel like giving up in. The feeling of giving up is normal, but a simple attitude change can position us to grow as individuals. So the next time you feel like giving up, just remember you're only at 40%. The book highlights how a bad childhood doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of your life is destined for failure.
My dad beat me, this happened. I mean, my dad ran prostitutes, man. My dad literally snatched the soul out of my mom. Like, my mom is still battling.
My dad beat my mom so bad he knocked her out and just drug her down the stairs by her hair.
His mother was so fearful of her life that she fled, taking David and his younger brother. David was suspected to grow up suffering from toxic stress. This occurs when a child experiences prolonged periods of stress. Doctors state that such types of stress can negatively impact the body and the mind of the child. So you shouldn't be surprised to learn that his traumatic childhood experiences saw him develop social anxiety as well as learning disabilities. Over the years, his insecurity of not being able to fit in led him to become a teenage thug. But the turning point in David's life occurred during his late teenage years, and he started talking to himself in an honest but raw manner. He started to call himself dumb. This was because his reading age was that of a grade 3 student. Not only that, but he had failed his entrance exam for the Air Force, his only career prospect at the time. Furious with his current situation, he decided to take action. He set goals. He wrote them on post-it notes and stuck them on his mirror. He called this his accountability mirror. Starting with small changes like making his bed and pulling up his jeans, he got to work. He began waking up before 5 AM each morning to lift weights at the gym. He would spend nights undergoing prep for the Air Force exam. After months of relentless studying and on his third attempt, he passed his Air Force entrance exam. David's rather unkind self-assessment motivated him to take action. David highlights in the book that at times it's okay to speak the harsh truth, but as long as you take the action to change for the better. Starting with your biggest goals, David recommends breaking these down into smaller goals. Each small goal should be written on a post-it note and stuck on the mirror for you to see every day. This acts as a small daily reminder of the progress that you need to make. It also prevents you from feeling overwhelmed with respect to your big ambitions. So for example, if your goal was to lose 60 pounds of fat in 6 months, your first post-it note should be, for example, to lose 2 pounds of fat in your first week. Only once that small goal is completed should you write your next small goal and stick that on the accountability mirror. Like David Goggins, hold yourself accountable for the small steps. This way, you're much more likely to achieve your goals. David also talks about the cookie jar, but not this kind of cookie jar. Instead, it's a metaphor representing his victories stored in his head. Each cookie is a victory. One of his was how he was able to qualify as a Navy SEAL. Another cookie was graduating top of his class in Army Ranger School. Whenever he felt like giving up, he would train himself to dig into his cookie jar and retrieve a cookie. Reliving those previous victories gave David the surge of energy that he needed to push through. By tapping into his sympathetic nervous system, he was able to raise his adrenaline levels. Soon, any pain he felt would start to fade away, just enough for him to keep on going. David recommends listing out your victories, no matter how big or small. This list should also include any obstacles that you've overcome. Once you've done this, read this list over again and again. With a little practice, the next time you feel like giving up, you'll be able to train yourself to open your cookie jar and retrieve a cookie. Remember, if it doesn't defy the laws of physics, it is possible. Earlier, I mentioned that David's turning point was during his late teenage years. His change in attitude eventually saw him get into the Air Force. But even with a mindset shift, he did not achieve all of his goals on his schedule. He wasn't going to fulfill his dream of being in the Air Force. 4 years after his discharge, he went from 175 pounds to nearly 300 pounds. He would only later find the motivation to train to become a Navy SEAL. Yet, even after he was accepted to complete his initiation, he was asked to leave due to injury. He would later return to complete his BUDS qualification training to then become a Navy SEAL. But it goes to show that success is not a straight line graph for any of us. David's ability to keep on fighting and finding a way in spite of setbacks is ultimately what led him to success. David had a fear of swimming. During his swimming drills in SEAL training, he would visualize his past triumphs. Recognizing how calloused his mind was, he was able to break through any physical and mental barriers. To become physically stronger, you need to repeat the process of lifting weights. Weightlifters often develop calluses at the base of their fingers. David applies the same logic to developing mental toughness. Repeating activities which make you feel uncomfortable will callous your mind. Once a task becomes more comfortable, make it slightly more difficult the next time. David highlights how the more situations you face which make you feel uncomfortable, the stronger you'll become. This will enable you to develop a more productive, can-do dialogue with yourself in stressful situations. My work ethic is the single most important factor in all of my accomplishments. Now this was David's schedule as a full-time Navy SEAL. He would wake up and go for a run at 4 AM. By 5:15 he would finish his run. He would cycle 25 miles to work and reach there for 7:30 in the morning. From 7:30 AM up until midday he would work. Now during his lunch break he would spend an hour either lifting weights or going for another run. He would finish work at 7 PM before cycling 25 miles back home. He would have dinner and then go to bed for 10 PM. Whilst he does have a meticulous work ethic, he does mention the importance of having one rest day in the week. So like David, strive to work hard during the week with one rest day. This will allow you to make massive progress on your goals whilst also avoiding burnout. From running 100 miles in just one day to holding the world record for the most number of pull-ups in 24 hours. David Goggins seems to be the definition of success. But how does he define greatness in the book?
I want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people.
It's easy to stand out amongst everyday people and be a big fish in a small pond. It is a much more difficult task when you're a wolf surrounded by wolves. So if you're in a top university and you truly want to be uncommon amongst uncommon, strive to be number one in the class. Once you're ranked number one on grades, don't lose that position. David mentions that we all can develop a mindset for elite performance. We do so by deliberately placing obstacles for us to break through. David Goggins grew up in a broken family, surrounded by poverty and abuse. The techniques that he shared in this book, as detailed in this video, helped him escape a life of pain and mediocrity. He was able to master his mind and defy the odds. I hope this video will help you to do so too. Thank you for watching.